how do we stack the deck right now? And this isn't like your prediction for 2021 because there's still a draft, there's still training camps, there's still a million things to happen between now and the beginning of the year. But I guess all we have to answer is this. It was basically the Browns and the Ravens, right? Is that sort of how we all felt, that it was going to be the Browns and the Ravens battling it out for the North? Maybe throw the Steelers in there.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Browns move themselves in that pecking order in your guys' minds yet?
I think they firmly did. I said it a year ago when right after the Steelers game, when, opening week 1, the Ravens crushed the Browns, and then the Steelers beat up on the Browns ugly week 7, whatever that was. I was like, look, you can say this isn't a huge deal, but you build a roster to win your division. And I was extremely concerned at that time that the Browns were not going to be a team that could beat those two teams in their division. Fast forward, they have an all-time game on Monday night with the Ravens, play with them, a win and defeat, a rare one of those. And then we know how the season ended with the Steelers. So then when you're looking at, all right, we conquered the Steelers, how do we get past the Ravens? Contain Lamar Jackson, defend the middle of the field. They added 2 players that do those things extremely well. And as Mary Kay said, the Ravens offseason was so far, their free agency has not been impressive. So by the Ravens not doing a whole lot and the Browns making some key improvements, I think they closed the gap slightly, but this is still the Ravens division. And I think Vegas would agree if we pulled up division odds or something like that.
I think that, I think some of it will come down to how Greedy Williams and Grant Delpit come back from their injuries this year.
Yeah.
They did do a good job. You're right. They did a tremendous job of bolstering the middle of the field. And that's going to help them tremendously when they play teams like the Ravens and when they play the Chiefs. It's going to be different this time around. They added some speed, and the middle shouldn't be the Bermuda Triangle for them anymore. And so, so that's all good. But I do think some of it's going to come down to Grant and Greedy. And then, of course, other guys staying healthy and what they do at that other pass rush position. They've got to have a pass rusher in mind somewhere along the line, right? The number 1 defense in the NFL last year was the Rams, and there was a reason for that. They had Leonard Floyd, they had Aaron Donald, they have guys that can disrupt the quarterback. And the year before that, the number 1 pass defense and then the number 2 defense overall was the San Francisco 49ers. And they had like 4 guys that could rush the heck out of the quarterback. You've got to have more than Myles Garrett that can do that. And the answer can't just be Takk McKinley. So they have to have something else up their sleeve. I don't know what it's going to be, but if they don't do that, then, you can ask John Johnson. I'm sure that he will tell you that having Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald, and the defensive front that he had in front of him was huge. And so they do need to add to that defensive front. They need to add, I don't care whether it's middle pressure, outside pressure. And they did add a little middle pressure with Malik Jackson. He does bring a push up the middle, but I still think they need something more. I still think they need to strike a little bit more fear from the front. And once they're able to do that, then I think I would maybe, put them up closer to Baltimore, but I think I still would put Baltimore ahead of them right now as we head into the draft.
This division is hard for me to get a read on. I'm with you guys. I think Baltimore still deserves to be that favorite in the AFC North. But I'm just kind of looking back. I was curious, Baltimore's losses last year were pretty much for the most part to good teams. Mm-hmm. They lost to Kansas City. They lost to the Steelers twice, but one of those was that Wednesday COVID game, and Lamar didn't even play in that game. But at the same time, I feel like the whole division also benefited from the schedule last year. Baltimore needed to win out to make the playoffs, and that meant beating Dallas with Andy Dalton, Jacksonville, the Giants, and the Bengals on top of that shootout with the Browns. So that was probably the closest measuring stick we had with those two teams. And they both looked pretty close to each other. That to me was the game that, even though the Browns lost, they kind of said, hey, we belong in this same discussion now. This isn't September 13th anymore. We belong in this same discussion. And then the Browns played really well in the playoffs. The Ravens and Lamar finally got that playoff win that they needed to get, even though they turned around and lost to Buffalo. So I think these teams are pretty close together, but I also still think Baltimore, to me right now, gets the edge. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Browns finally get over that hump and beat the Ravens this year and make a run for that AFC North title. And like I said, I don't have much faith in the Steelers, but I've said this before too. That's the type of team that can make you look stupid by week 6 in October when they're 4-2. So I wouldn't completely write them off yet. And then the schedule is tougher for everybody this year. So I'm curious to see how this division shakes out.